Hello everyone, Kent Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org. Hello everybody, this is Kent Bressler and we're going to do some podcasting. I am excited about today. I have a really good friend that's coming on, and what we're going to do is just gently talk about kidney anniversaries, and we'll talk about that a little later. I did want to pray before I start. I have this feeling that as my day went yesterday, today is a much better day today, so I want to give thanks. So let's pray. Our Father, we know where you come from. We know where you're taking us. We ask that you put your umbrella over us of protection, and think about those who are so sick and who are looking for kidney donors or are on dialysis or just receiving the diagnosis of CKD. I ask that you look upon us now on our podcast so that we can generate some information for people out there that might be of help to them, but at least give them some peace and hope. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. I'm going to do, these are what I call the AAKP, American Association of Kidney Patient podcasts for kidney anniversaries. And I want to do a shameless plug for AAKP. So just hang in there just a minute before we get started. AAKP is the oldest and largest fully independent kidney patient organization in the States. It's dedicated to improving the lives and long-term outcomes of kidney patients through education, advocacy, patient engagement, and the fostering of patient communities. AAKP fights for early disease detection, including appropriate diagnosis of rare genetic diseases, increased kidney transplantation and preemptive transplantation, full patient choice of either in-center or home dialysis, protection of the patient-physician relationship, promotion of research and innovation that includes artificial implantable and wearable kidneys, and it also provides for the elimination of barriers for patient access to available treatment options. I'm a total supporter of AAKP, and I just enjoy doing these podcasts on anniversaries. And today I have Gail Glasser with us, and Gail is going to tell us a little bit about her kidney journey, and then we're just going to sit around and chat. We got the fireplace going, and everything's just right. So, Gail, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Tell me a little, let's just get a little background. I think this is did you say your 5th year anniversary today?
Yes, today is my exact 50-year anniversary.
So on November 20th, you received a transplant 5 years ago, and tell us a little bit about that.
I received a call approximately 10:20 in the morning. I was at work, and the nurse called me and said, "We have a kidney, and we, think it's a good fit for you, but we have to go through the testing." And my first question was, is it really a good kidney? Is it something that I should be looking at? Because I was on the list for so many years, and I never took any of the phone calls before, really. Or I turned down 2 of them before. And so she said, "No, I think this is really a great kidney, and let us do the testing and call us back with your answer within an hour." So I actually took the kidney. I called back and I said, okay. And they said, you have to be here by 3 so we could get you prepped because surgery will be around 6.
Oh, wow.
And surgery didn't go as planned because they had an emergency and they needed the operating room. So my surgery, they didn't take me down from my room until about 8:30. And I don't believe I went into OR until about 9:30, quarter to 10. So it was just like boom, boom, boom. Here you
Yep.
go.
Yep.
And
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I was just going to say, I was feeling good. So for me, it was like, uh-oh, what am I doing?
You were feeling good in the sense of physically?
I never hit dialysis. So for me, the transplant was harder than before I went in for it.
You're a gal after my own heart. So what I was going to ask you is, do you happen to know who the donor was, or if you met the donor family? I mean,
I have not met the donor family. It was a young child.
okay.
And, you know, I lost a child who
Oh, no.
was very young. And so for me, it was quite.
Oh, it's okay. Take your time.
It was difficult.
Oh, yes. You know, we talk about this all the time when we do these podcasts. For some reason, and I guess it's just known to us as transplant recipients, there's always an overlay of emotion, and that's acceptable. Trust me. Tears wash away all the pain for a while, but it never gets rid of it all. But you got to do it and take your time. Just it's okay, Gail.
It was just, reality of my loss. Yeah, so.
Okay,
And
so did the transplant, the actual surgery go okay?
it went phenomenal. Because with my son that I lost, I had a C-section with him and they gave me staples.
Uh-huh.
And so I said to them when I was in the prep part of before I went into OR, you will not. And I've always said this to them, you will never give me staples. The resident said, well, we've never done sutures for a transplant, and I don't know how you're going to walk out of here if we're going to even do it, if that's what you're saying. I said, you make the call because I won't do it. And I truly walked out with sutures, and it was such an easy heal. I went in, I came back to my room. We just were looking at the picture when I got back to my room at 4 a.m. It didn't look any different than at 6 the night before. And I was walking that day, and that was on Saturday morning. And I was at my house walking stairs at 7:30 Sunday.
Wow. Do you remember any of your lab work? What was
my lab work, it was really interesting. See, my nephrologist who put me on the list, I was one of his early patients, and I disliked him like you can't imagine. I didn't like his bedside manner. But this man was a genius, and I got to really know him through the years, of course.
Sure.
And he said, you're going to be my patient that I'm putting on the list. By the time you need it, you'll be number 1. And I was number 1 for like 6 years. And he sold his practice, and the new nephrologist wasn't as educated in the way he taught me. And so I really struggled with the new nephrologist. He was younger, and he poo-pooed a lot of the stuff that the nephrologist did. And so by, I think, 6 months before I had my transplant, he goes, Gail, I think you should really look at dialysis and this and that. And I honestly will never go on dialysis, and my family knows that. Yeah. I don't believe in it. I believe that there's a way for God to intervene, and he did.
Yep. Absolutely. So it's interesting how the change of the guard can make so much of a difference in how you accept your care.
Absolutely.
and how they try to guide you or steer you, or I guess sometimes even manhandle you into different things, other things that you don't want. And that's why you have to stand up for yourself.
I think you have to do that in every aspect of your life. And after, I mean, when I look back at my life, I have been blessed again, in comparison to many, but I've been through a lot of struggles. And I remember even when I had my first daughter, and the pediatrician didn't believe how sick my daughter was until I took her in there and he pressed on her stomach and he got full of everything from all ends. And then we go into the hospital and the nurse, I'm telling this little baby who is not even a year old, saying it's going to hurt when the nurse gives you the needle. And the nurse is yelling at me and everything. How can you tell her that? Because you got to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all about honesty. And I wanted honesty, but I didn't want drama.
Right. Just give me the facts. Let me do
Exactly.
that. We always talk about options, right? I mean, I can go well with a couple options. Just don't tell me where we're headed. I make
Or
that decision.
or do your homework.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I will keep stressing today is do your homework. Don't just take one opinion. Really do your homework. And I think that's what's made me um, happier, and it's made me feel better in my quest to keep this kidney going forever.
So how is it going? Is I guess the only indicator not only is how you feel, but your lab work and all that. Is it holding its own?
I am doing fantastic, but I am not your average patient in any kind of health. I will get this out there. I went to a nephrology conference almost to the day of my second anniversary that they were holding in Illinois. And I started meeting all these doctors and I started looking for more answers. And I was talking to medical staff from all over the country and out of the country. And so I ran into this one doctor and they were doing liquid biopsies. And I knew about the cancer liquid biopsy, which was fairly new at the time. And so when I heard liquid biopsy, I'm going, how can I get in it? What can I do? Because I know that when they do a biopsy invasively, it still can damage your kidney.
Sure does.
And so I was one of the first here doing a liquid biopsy before it was approved by Medicare. And so I'm always looking for answers. I'm always researching. I'm always talking. Um, and I just think that's the greatest gift God gave me is the brain to keep searching.
Yep, that's the most important part of this. Most people just they get their transplant and they go out the door thinking, well, I got all these people around me that'll take care of it. They just go on down the road. You
Well,
have to go back and look at yourself specifically and deal it with yourself. You've got to be the motivator. You got to be your self motivator.
I went to some meetings for transplant patients and I realized that there was a lot of issues that were lacking in my perspective for transplant patients. And so I was on another quest to understand how important is diet. Because at one of the meetings, they had donuts, they had soda, and this
My
was
kind
out
of
of a
meeting.
this was out of the hospital yet.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wait a minute, something's very wrong here. And so I just never went back because
Yeah.
I believe that we have to really, this is a gift. This is a gift
Oh, yeah.
that we have to cherish. And what do you do when you have a beautiful piece of artwork, a piece of crystal, and you put it on a mantle so you could look at it and dust it off so it doesn't get dirty? And that's how I see this kidney.
That's true. If you don't take care of it, who is?
Right. And so I actually begged my doctor to go see a dietitian after the transplant because that's not something they offered at the time. And so in March, they set up an appointment with the dietitian, and she was lovely. She was very young. And because of my nephrologist that I had through the years, I knew more than her. So I knew that wasn't a good thing because there's a difference how you know, take care of your kidney before or after a transplant. And then I went to another hospital with the lead nutritionist, and we tweaked a few things, but I honestly knew a lot about nutrition. And then, in fact, last week, because now I'm on a gluten-free diet, and I'll go into that in a minute, um, she just said to me, "You watch your potassium phosphate so closely that this is unbelievable." And I know no different than when I first came down with my kidney disease. Phosphorus and potassium are going to be your next issue, no different than salt was when I first came down. They had no idea.
So what is your kidney condition? If you had a biopsy to diagnose what it is, or was
Oh,
it
yeah, it was
infectious?
strep. I could tell you exactly what happened. I
Okay,
was 15 years old, and we didn't know I had a strep throat, and it damaged both kidneys.
there you go. There you go.
Oh, yeah. And, no one really heard of that because I'm quite old now. So, I mean, it's going back years and years and years. And, back then they didn't hear that. It's no different than, I remember the following year after my transplant, we were going to my aunt's for Thanksgiving, and my mom said, "You can't put salt on the turkey." And my aunt said, "I have all these other people. I'm not going to bring dinner for Gail." And so my mom said, "Don't worry, I'll make her and the family a turkey and we'll bring it."
There you go.
And today, no one really adds salt because you have wonderful seasonings.
Yep, that's right.
So,
Okay, so here's the deal. If you when you came out of surgery, do you remember?
oh, I sure do.
Okay, and so like how did you feel?
I felt wonderful. I honestly was fine. I was absolutely fine, except um, in I went home on Sunday, as I told you. On Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, I ended up back at the hospital. They didn't know if I was rejecting or what. I
Oh,
started throwing up, and I was really ill. But it lasted one day. And the next day, my mother said to me, may she rest in peace, "Gail, we're going to Gail's house for Thanksgiving. I told her I would be there." So I got in the car after surgery, driving 45 minutes to pick up my mom and dad, driving to my cousin's house, sat there all during Thanksgiving with makeup on and everything, and had a wonderful time. I was tired, but it was fine.
yeah, that's what a lot of people will say right after it's been. That's why I could get out and go. I had a lot to get up and go, but towards the end of the day, I started to wane, and that's been pretty much the way it's gone for me though my whole life. So
Oh,
it's
really?
working. Oh yeah. So all different strokes for different folks, and but I made it to 70, so there you go.
God bless you. And you keep going.
Listen, how do you react to people who have a tendency not to want to take care of themselves? You just blow them off, or do you try to work with them, or what do you try to do?
There's two sides to me, okay? One side says, this was a gift and you're making me angry because someone else could be using that special gift if you don't care. And the other side says there's a lack of education. And if I had to make one request from any hospital is that education is solely needed, that we really have to help people to protect whatever transplant it is.
I agree. I think the most important thing is that we have mentors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that any hospital should let anybody go without having a mentor. And that's
Absolutely.
because And as an example, you can take somebody who's fresh and then somebody who's been out 5, 10 years even. Those two people match up really well because there's always that idea in that fresh transplants patient is, gosh, now I got to call the transplant team because I really don't know what to do about this and that. So why don't I pick up the phone and give them a call? And you don't always get through. But then you have a good relationship with a mentor, and that mentor is smart enough to realize he doesn't give out medical advice. They're a life sustainer. They're great to have around because they can put you at peace.
Absolutely. You're so right. And being a mentor, you're also educated first before you are a mentor.
That's correct.
And I've been a mentor in my past work. I've been a mentor in many things. In fact, my transplant doctor said I'm so far ahead of even the medical area that they're practicing in now because of my research, and even my nephrologist who, I grew up with, that there's so much information I have, but I keep it to myself because I'm very scared to give that out.
It's okay to give information out as long as it's not medical information.
Well,
all right.
I practice both Eastern and Western medicine. And I go down to the cellular level on one side. And, they don't talk about when you have a kidney transplant that you lose an adrenal gland. And if you know anything about adrenal glands, you'll know how important that is to us. And so I'm actually supporting the adrenal gland that I lost. I'm only on 2 immunosuppressants. That's it. And the rest.
What are they?
One's Invarsus and the other one's mycophenolate. And
Okay.
now I'm looking to switch even, and I'll know more in March if I could switch to another immunosuppressant and get off of one.
What are you thinking about going on?
I would have to get the name. It's in the other room.
Is it an IV or is it oral?
It's oral.
Okay.
It's oral. It's something that my other doctor wants me to go on. It's just my nephrologist from the transplant team says I'm doing so well on these. He's a little leery, but we're going to reevaluate it in March, which it's fine.
Okay.
I'm on 45 different supplements. That's been approved by the transplant team. I have always been on supplements because of my nephrologist. In fact, I was on aminos when I first became pregnant, and the high-risk OB took me off of them because they didn't even know. They thought that was going to hurt the baby, and now that's what they prescribe for all pregnancies.
Right.
So I'm just ahead of the game. Absolutely ahead of the game.
So what do you tell somebody who has not access to this, not knowledgeable? How would you approach them? Someone who's never had any idea what you're talking about, being on the cellular level and taking amino acids and supplements. Because most people don't.
Well, your transplants teams don't.
Right. No, I'm saying just in general, most people don't.
Right. And do you know what? If you understand how the medical field works here, you understand why they don't. Mm-hmm. Okay. Without being political or anything, you understand where it is. I would actually talk to your team about supplements. I would recommend they would, and do it slowly. It was 3 months out when I first went back to I shouldn't say all my supplements. I went back to the supplements I was taking before transplant, and I got it approved by transplant. And I would bring in the blood test from my other doctor and show my transplant doctor what I was doing, where it's at, why I'm doing this, and he approved it all. And I would just recommend that you go to your doctor, talk to them about it. And what I have found out when I have spoken to other transplant patients, their doctors are against it because they don't understand it.
It's right. And that's that one thing I want to do on a takeaway here. I think what's happened with you and what you're doing for yourself is excellent. Okay. because you've always involved the nephrology community, your doctor. And you're
Absolutely.
and that's what you have to do. That's the takeaway from this whole thing. To get into to all this process, probably what we ought to do is have you come back.
I'll be
You know what I'm
glad.
saying? I would like to explore this.
Mhm.
Let's
Absolutely.
do that. Let's set this aside, and I will schedule with you. We'll talk after we're done here, and we'll schedule some time. I know people would like to listen to it. Okay, and I'm open.
Absolutely.
I'm open, and then we're
Yeah.
free. That's all we'll talk about.
Okay.
Okay, let me take you back to the transplant.
Okay.
What is your goal right now? What is it that you see yourself doing other than the supplements, just your general condition? What is your goal for longevity? What are you going to do to keep your kidney going?
I am going to follow the same protocol that I have been. I have always watched my diet. I have always watched the phosphorus and potassium, the sodium. Um, I eat very healthy.
Okay.
And I think that's a huge part of maintaining your kidney.
I agree. What's your feeling on moderation?
That's so funny you said that. My father had a heart attack, a major heart attack when he was 38. He would have been 98 today, so you could only imagine.
On your transplant day.
And the funny thing is that his doctor, because back then they kept you in the hospital because they didn't have any of the testing like they do today. And the one word that his doctor used to do is say, everything in moderation. You could do everything, do it in moderation. And I am a firm believer in that motto in everything I do.
You're coming back. That's because that's the way I've lived with my kidney for 33 years.
Oh, God bless you.
Everything that I do, and I'm not just diet, I'm not talking about that. Gave up a lot of things. I've strayed, but I've never been away from things. I've never been on this extreme side of a diet or extreme side of exercise.
Me either.
And listen, I am where I am at right now because I did everything in moderation. I quit being excessive, okay? Because excesses do not provide you with success. All they do is set you up for failure.
I agree.
And I can tell you that I want to have you come back. I want to have you come back. We're going to have this conversation. This is going to happen. Okay.
I'm looking forward to it, Ben. I really am.
Do you have anything now that you would say to an individual out there who's either just been transplanted or is anticipating a transplant? What would be your recommendations before we close?
Research, research, research. Anything you have a question about, research it and then go to your doctor with that information and ask which way to go.
Okay, and your sources would be, where would you get your information, your research?
Well, I research on medical sites every day. I still do, to see what's happening in the nephrology world, in even cancer or whatever, because it all comes back because they all start doing the same thing. I Google it. I am on Kidney Buzz. I am on every kidney site that you could imagine. And the one thing I will tell you that was lacking, that the one thing my doctor didn't tell me to do was do any research about preserving your kidney or anything back then.
No,
Maybe.
yeah.
And so anyone who finds out today that they have kidney disease, it's at your fingertip. All this research is there. Start looking at.
Yeah, research, but not somebody's opinion. You got to stay away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's got to be strict research. It's got to be published. It's got to be reviewed. It's got to be a scientific data. You cannot go by what's going on. What one person says in California, hey, this is what I do. And you ought to be doing that. It's not going to happen. You need things that are trained.
But the other thing is that even if it's research and science, you're going to get two different opinions from different sites.
Absolutely.
So that's when you got to go to your doctor.
That's right. That's exactly correct. You never take him out of the equation or her. because they're the ones that are knowledgeable, and they see a lot more things on a kidney patient. They see more kidney patients than you'll ever see. Even though you've lived it, they're seeing all of the extremes and all of the differences and all the innuendos and all of the things that happen to a person. They get to see that.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what we're doing. You're hired. We're going to bring you back on, and we're going to set it up. Okay, we're going to do it before we set up anything. We'll talk about it. We'll get it all straightened out. Have we forgot to talk about anything about your kidney anniversary, which I'm so proud of you for 5 years?
Oh, thank you. I just want everyone to know that they could get here and never to give up. Never, ever give up hope.
For that, let's leave it at that, because that's about the best way it can be said, because there's always hope, no matter what. There is always hope. And out there, when you look at it from a kidney standpoint, from being a patient, make sure, folks, when you think about it, if you got a diagnosis, there are people out there that can help you with it. Don't worry. The whole process it's a journey. It's not something you're going to take a pill for and fix. So Gail had a good point. Let's just make sure we do our research. Let's research, but also go on living. If you get a transplant, that's why you had it. It's to live. So come back. We're going to have Gail on. We don't know when, but we would have her again. And please go to my pod site, Kent's Kidney Stories, and listen to some of these podcasts. They're very interesting and they're educational. And when you're done reviewing them, make sure that you comment on them and subscribe to them. And then we get an idea of what's going on. We can do an even better job. So until I see from you again, keep breathing.